In order, 5 after 3, and Councilman Lay, would you give us honor of blessing this meeting?
Yes, sir. Thank you. All rise, please. Lord, we appreciate the day that you've given us to work on the problems of the Cherokee people. We hope that you guide us well and that we do a good job for you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, do roll call. Shut.
Sir. David Walkingston.
Honey.
Don Garvin.
Honey.
Bill Anglin.
Honey.
Keith Austin.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzard. Joe Bird.
Honey.
Sean Crittenden. Frankie Hargis.
Present.
Wanda Hatfield. Rex Jordan.
Here.
Dick Lay.
Here.
Curtis Snell. Janice Taylor. Here. David Thornton. Victoria Vasquez. Brian Warner. We do have a quorum.
All right, thanks, Shay. I'd hear a motion to approve the minutes of May 15, 2017.
Make a motion to be approved.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Down to reports. We got Talking Leaves Job Corps. Miss Diane Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is our busy time of the year, according to most of our staff. They put in some long hours trying to get all these applications ready for the summer youth program, and I'll report on that tomorrow on Executive and Finance. Talking Leaves just completed their last leg of their 4-part review, which was their health and wellness and disability component. And Ramona and I visited Friday. She told me that everything went real good. Glenda Anderson, our health and wellness instructor or manager, and Jackie Jenkins, our academic manager, are to be commended along with her in trying to get all this stuff ready before the review. They were here for a whole week, and it's a big part of our overall review to ensure that we are maintaining good records there on our students for the health and wellness piece, as well as making sure that any students that test out that are having disabilities, that we are working with them. Working with C&B to get referrals and develop training for food service. Met with the new Executive Director, Chief Officer over Human Services, Stephanie Sapoli, a couple of weeks back, and then met with Bob and Vivian last week. So we're looking at trying to do an all-out effort to help with recruitment for the Hard Rock on their food service. And then we're also looking at a training component, maybe some scholarships, so that we can build those career ladders for those people that are interested in doing food service, or that we can sway some of these people that are coming in for training to go into the food service area. When we submitted the sector partnership grant to the Department of Labor, there was 3 areas that we looked at, and what we did is we did a kind of a survey to determine good paying jobs in the area. With all the casinos in the state of Oklahoma, and with what we're doing in expanding our operations and building, it was a win-win for us to look at hospitality. With our clinic expansions and the new facility that's going to be built here in Tahlequah, we also included health, and then the third one was manufacturing. When we went down to Dallas in February, we asked Department of Labor to allow us to expand upon that and add construction, because that's another area where there are good paying jobs in the 14-county area. And I know a lot of people that sit in one county think that we're here to serve that one county, but we go all the way up to the state of Kansas border, all the way down to Arkansas line. So we've got people in all those areas that we're trying to find jobs for. That was one of the areas why we put the apprenticeship in place. John set up a meeting this past week with Oil Capital, McIntosh, and Flint Co., and we started our discussion with them on the apprenticeship, and they're all gun-ho about working with us on this, and that they've got some people in mind. We hope to be able to expand that here in the next few weeks, and we get the apprenticeship classroom up and running and get our contract with the construction people up here. Flint Co. is going to allow us to use the trailer there on the site for the training. So some of the training will take place in the evening, and it may take place on the weekend, depending on what type of training we're going to need for that, so that we can get them those apprenticeship certifications. I want to give a big thanks to Ron and Jennifer. They're working with us on a possibly a scholarship for some of our hospitality people. We don't know how this is going to work out. I'm working with OSU out of Stillwater to get more information. So we're hoping that that will work out so that we can at least have a pilot project going on with them. We've got 2 job fairs, one in Ramona tomorrow from 2 to 6 for the casino, and then we have one at Swans on Wednesday in Stillwell from 10 to 6 o'clock. These are 2 areas that the job development staff have been working with Hunter and his team, so we hope that we get some good people to turn out for those jobs. So if you know of anyone that is looking for a job, send them our way. Apprenticeship training is going good. We are moving along with that. We have a new counselor in Salisaw. Some of y'all may remember Teresa Morris that worked for us. Well, she's coming back. She left C&B. She left us to go to C&B, and now she's coming back. So she's going to be working down there and hit the ground running. She worked for us for a number of years. She already knows how to do the applications. She already knows about the summer youth program, so we're just turning it over to her. And then she's worked for Fort Smith, so she's very familiar with that area as well. So we're real pleased to get her back. And our fire program is doing well. Reuben and Tillison were sent to Arizona this past week by the Bureau. And Mr. Brent Goring has nothing but praise to say for those guys and what they're doing with the fire program. Any questions?
Yes, Councilman Crittenden?
Is Willard Mounts and Tony stay at home with you?
Who?
Willard Mounts and Tony stay at home? Are they kind of part of your?
Willard Mounts is Tony stay at home?
He's with CCO.
What is
Robert Daugherty.
CCO.
Willard's over the administrative component for Taro, and he works with the water and sanitation and the housing and the roads department.
Willard and Tony bailed me out on helping an elder. I just couldn't tell them.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
So Willard went out with Tony to help.
I mean, fast.
Okay,
No, thank you.
okay, I'll pass that along.
Here's the only thing, Counselor, on that. They will bail you out, but they don't have the budget for it. They usually just do it because I've utilized them too.
Well, if they, I'm ready to give them some money if they'll do like they did on this elder.
They're good.
But bear in mind, Willard's not in that business. He probably just did it out of the
He
goodness
read
of
the
his heart.
directions.
Anyway,
Stay at home is the man.
Tell them thank you.
Any other questions?
What's the, what are the different ways we're offering employment there in Adair County? I keep reading about Adair County being the highest, most impoverished county in the state of Oklahoma. And
Where did you
being
read this?
in the Tulsa world.
Well, at one time, it was the most impoverished county. It is, along with several other counties, but it's not the most impoverished county right now.
Yeah, well, so my question is what areas or what ways are we getting employment up there to the Adair County people?
We are working right now with the major businesses that are there in the county, like Baldor Electric in Westville. There's also another business that was there at the old candle factory. They called it the candle factory, but it's a business. It's a small business. Then there is a small furniture factory there in the area. Then there's the AERT in Watts. Then there is Swans in Stillwell. Then you have the pallet company. Then you have the there is another pallet company there that we refer people to. That's where they cut the trees.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have the Henningsen Cold Storage. And then you've also got some small mom and pop shops around the area where they're looking for people, like they're at the motel at various places
Okay.
that we make referrals.
I was the CEO of Simmons is wanting to meet with me at the end of July, and I was wanting to know if one of your staff could come down there with me and maybe talk about how we can partner with Simmons on possibly getting some of our folks employed down there. 'Cause I know there's a lot of tax credits with employment when when you're dealing with minorities. And so we're attractive to a lot of businesses because of those tax credit abilities. And so, anyways, yeah, if you have someone on standby that could come down there with me, that could maybe form a partnership with Simmons. And
Which Simmons are you talking about?
I believe it's the it's in Arkansas,
Cater.
huh?
Cater.
Yeah, Decatur. I guess they're a large corporation. I'm not familiar.
Decatur is out of our jurisdictional boundary.
Well, I'm
We
talking
would have
about-
to actually make referrals to them, and
That's
we
what
can
I'm.
do that.
Yeah, as we are with these other companies that you mentioned, we're just making referrals to these other businesses that you were referring to. So, what I'm requesting is to have someone come down there with me that knows these partnerships we have with different businesses, so that we could possibly form a partnership with them if that's an interest of Cherokee Nation.
Are you trying to address the unemployment in Adair County?
Yes, because
How come you don't utilize your council members here?
Yeah.
well, I mean, you can come as well. They just I don't care.
Are
who
you
comes.
asking that for her help in doing like a job fair for them?
Pretty much just how are we bridging the gap between? I think it's an opportunity for us to bridge the gap with Cherokee Nation and this business, Simmons, to possibly a bridgeway for our people to get over there and maybe offer them of why it's important to hire Cherokee people. Like why is it important to hire us?
One of the things that you said early on in this discussion was that they're wanting to form a partnership.
Well, I
Anytime
didn't
there's
say
a
they're not-
partnership, that would have to go through the chief's office.
They're not wanting to. They're not wanting to form a partnership. They're wanting to show me what they do, and I was thinking, how can this benefit Cherokee Nation? Well, let's bring career services into the mix. Let's potentially look at a bridge program on career services to Simmons.
What I would suggest is have them call the chief's office and set up an appointment with the chief's office and have them come over and visit with him. Normally, when we're working with any business in the area that is looking for us to do something of that sort, normally they make contact with the chief's office and
Okay.
something is set up.
Again, they're not looking for it. It was just me thinking about an opportunity here. They're not looking for the partnership. It was myself trying to find a partnership for us to go to them and maybe inform that partnership and employ the Adair County people, since that's the closest
Do you
county.
know what the wages are?
I don't know anything about Simmons. I just it'd be good if someone came with us and could maybe set up a second meeting after that first initial meeting. I think it's an opportunity.
Okay. I would ask that you vet that through the chief's office and allow him to determine whether it's something that we want to get into.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of businesses that are out there. Some of them are just minimum wage type jobs, and they would also have to provide transportation for some of these people. And we're trying to get people to locate to other areas, and we're trying to get transportation needs for some of our own facilities. Like the Hard Rock, for instance, we're working with them right now, trying to get people up in that area to take some of the jobs that we have open there.
Okay.
So I would ask that you would work through the chief's office and,
Well, we get Crittenden and Hargis and go down there, and if something's potential out there, we'll get with Chief and see if it's something they may want to
okay,
get you guys involved with.
okay, sounds good.
Yes.
We may want to include Delaware County representatives as well. That's because Decatur would be close to them as well.
Okay.
Yes,
All
it
right.
would be, sure would be.
I'll get with you guys. This later part of July is when they're wanting to schedule this walkthrough. So, yes, Councilman Crittenden.
Well, I appreciate you thinking of us. And, we, sometimes these boundary lines, we kind of like to stay into it, but I do appreciate you as a neighbor council person. If you got contacts,
Exactly.
I don't have the contact with the CEO. I appreciate you thinking of us, and like Diane said, there'll be, I guess, the right ways to go about it through the chief's office and stuff, but I appreciate you, and heck, Simmons brings a van down in our area.
Yeah.
picks up. So, you know, if it's a few hurdles you have to go through, I appreciate you there. I think it'd be a great deal, and heck, we got an empty Tyson chicken plant sitting empty with maybe a fairy tale to talk about it right now. But being from Stillwell, and it happens to be in my district, the contact with the CEO of Simmons wouldn't hurt anything. I'd like to see them start cutting up some chickens in there.
Yeah.
But
We need to
anyway,
try to get them here to the Cherokee Nation rather than us going there, if at all possible.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
We'll fill it out. We also got the Woodmark building as well that's sitting there empty. That is a potential asset there. So,
Thank you.
anyways, any other questions of Ms. Diane Kelly?
Good report.
Good report, Diane. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Down to our executive director's report, Mr. Ron Etheridge.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Several things,
Sorry.
and I'll let Jennifer speak here in the end. She may have some things, or you may have questions for her, because our deadline was last week, the 15th. But language conference is going on as we speak, all day long, this entire week, and it's at Heritage Elementary, if you want to drop by there and be a part of that. RTR, we're passing around the group, and a reminder that we're going to welcome them back on Thursday. That ceremony is 11 o'clock downtown. You've been a part of that in the past, I'm sure. But got to experience about 8 days with them. I think the most we traveled in one day was right at 70 miles. So it's a slow pace, some beautiful country, and some things that you just don't forget. You reflect on your heritage, and it's a way to learn. And once again, I want to go back sometime. Now that I'm learning some history, and of course Jack taught me a lot last year in the beginning, I want to go back and take family and just take my time and really look at it. And I want to read some more on it. But these kids, I mean, it's amazing what they're learning and what they're able to see and be a part of. And it's a team concept because they have to come together with the Eastern Band. And, I heard things like, well, the Eastern Band right off the bat said when they train, they don't have the hills that we have. And of course, our kids say, well, you don't have the heat that we have, But anyway, they're kind of apart to begin with, and you're going to see when they get here, they're together as a group. So, very interesting. Some other things, Trail of Tears, and the Awards of Excellence, those that you nominated out of your districts, the Cherokee Phoenix has come out with that. So you can see their names in there, and just kind of letting you know about that. Camp Cherokee, we've already had some good camps, have two more, or two biggest, size-wise, numbers-wise. We have 247 ready to go to Briggs out here next week, and they can take as many as 300. So, 247, that's our younger children. So that's an outstanding camp size-wise. And then the Heart of the Hills camp is up from last year. Right now we have currently enrolled 182 and can take as many as 225. So last year the numbers had dropped down. And one of the reasons is they take those phones away from them. And I'll tell you what, kids, they just have to have them. And now, but now that it's been away from them, they know it's going to be away from them. Okay, they've accepted that fact, and hopefully, we'll have the good numbers. For the ambassadors, Miss Cherokee, Junior Miss Cherokee, and Little Ambassadors, the deadline is July 12th. July 12th. Our group of young people leaving for Unity in Denver and that's going to happen July the 5th, and they'll be gone from July 5th to the 11th. Our youth council will be present tonight, just to make you aware. That's and then we have a new Heritage Center director, Dr. Charlie Gord. Get by there, introduce yourself, Charlie. I've had a sit down or two with him and looking forward to more. But college scholarships, how many of you got calls already? Okay, okay, Jennifer, she can explain more than me, but I'm just going to tell you, and then I'm going to let her have the floor regarding this. She's had her group together. She's working one short right now, and we're in the process of getting that spot filled, but she had Taryn that she's able to pull in there, and Taryn's done this before, and so she was able to work that part of the alphabet. They were in sync, the most that I've ever seen the group. We're telling everyone the same thing. We got consistent with when the deadline was. I mean, and it was 12 midnight, and then wouldn't you know it, someone's electricity went off, okay? But I'm going to tell you, though, it's 12 midnight, okay, no matter what happened, Central Standard Time, and that's what we're going with. And so, anyway, when we get, and I haven't had those phone calls yet, okay, and I know that there's going to be some. I've had a text or two. Am I too late? We missed it. What can be done? Well, I'm having to tell them that they can apply for next year. And that's just, we're sorry, but it's just one of those things. And I really think, if you'll bear with us, that we're going to show some consistency here, that our people's going to understand it. And they're going to get on board with it. And they're going to know if they want it, then they need to do it at the right time. We are contacting those that did not have everything in. We're contacting them first. I don't want them going 4 or 5 weeks into school thinking part of their way's paid, and then all of a sudden they find out, hey, it's not paid. Because I want to tell you, the colleges are allowing that to happen because they want their money. They're going to let us decide that. So anyway, we're going to take care of it that way. Okay. You got anything you want to add regarding that, or do you want to?
Just a little update on the numbers. As of when we came in on the 16th, midnight deadline from June 15th, we had 5,100 applications and 80 concurrent, which their deadline is not till August the 10th. So we didn't quite count those. So total between March 1 and June 15th is 5,180 applications. So that is up from where we were this time last year.
What's the variance from last year?
We're up about 150 applications, and so it's going to take us a good 3.5 weeks to kind of filter through all the applications. And so as soon as we get that done, we'll come back to you with an update of how many we're able to fund, how many we're not eligible, we're still missing documents and all that. So our goal is to get 3 notices to the students that are missing documents. The first one goes out and says, these are what you're missing. Once we get everybody processed, then we'll send out one more, specifically here's what you're missing, and then one last time. If you're getting this email, you're still missing something, let us know right away.
Where are all these Cherokees coming from?
All over. Across the U.S.
What's the projected increase of costs and scholarships? About $4 million?
Probably not quite that high.
It's 16 in the past. At 5,100, you're looking at 20 million.
Yeah, we're probably thinking we'll fund of this 5,100, probably right at 4,600.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. Councilman Baker's first. Councilman.
Well, I just want to comment on the bike riders, because it was my privilege again to spend the first few days with them in the Old Nation. And as usual, it's an outstanding group of kids. And I think it's a fantastic leadership program for the Cherokee Nation because it gets them committed to the nation. And I say a leadership program because right now, the current chief of the Eastern Band is a former rider, remember the removal, and also one of the persons running for council who's in the runoffs is a former bike rider of the Eastern Band. And I'm sure we're going to see that happen here in the Cherokee Nation also. So I think it's a great program.
Thank you.
Councilman Thornton.
Yes, sir. Do you have a number per district on how many have
Not
applied?
yet.
and
I mean,
where
right now,
they're
these
from?
are just raw applications. We haven't sorted through or done anything beyond just kind of get a number of how many came in. We can
I'd
get
like-
that to you though
I'd
shortly.
like to have that number
Okay.
in district.
Yes, Councilwoman Taylor?
Do we track these students to be sure that they're actually getting a degree? Or do you have any way to know, are they just playing around with it? Are they actually, do we keep up with them? Do we know how much we funded per student and if they're actually graduating?
We do. We have a history of 4 years in our current system. And so we just upgraded in March to a little bit newer system, and we are able to track if they're on concurrent. Once they get high school, we can put that in the system. If they get an associate's degree, we can get that added. Then their bachelor's, master's, doctorate. So we can kind of track those with dates. And then we're also now able to track hours attempted, earned, and kind of where they fall if they're passing, if they're enrolling in.
Okay, so did I understand you, we have the ability, we have not done it in the past?
Correct.
Okay, I'd be curious to know.
That's something we're gonna start getting in a report, maybe.
Yeah, this is the first semester that we can actually track the attempted hours. If someone started with 15 and they finished with 6, we can see that variance and then kind of see what the GPA is that follows that. So
Okay.
that information will be the first semester we've got it in. With continuing students, as they're applying, we check their transcripts. We're putting that in for spring. So anybody that's reapplied for fall, we'll have a little bit of that data.
Councilman Anglin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ron, I want to thank you for coming to my community meeting this last Saturday. I thought we had a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, you had a great turnout.
Thank you guys for showing up.
Okay.
And the people appreciated that behind you too.
Okay.
And also Miss Kelly's group too that showed up.
How much of the motor fuels money goes towards these scholarships?
It's probably approximately half.
Oh, is it? As everyone knows that the motor fuels compact is renewed every 20 years, and it's June of this month, or we're supposed to be renewing our compact. So tomorrow, Todd will probably have some questions. But the reason I'm bringing it up in this committee is that 10% or 20% of that motor fuels goes towards education. So as far as us renegotiating with the state of Oklahoma, we can always put more money towards housing rehab or education or whatever it may be. So just FYI, because whatever we put can be in concrete for the next 20 years. Yes, Councilman Buzzard.
Ron or Jennifer, I know in the past I've asked about dropouts. Can you give us a number on dropouts that drop out after getting the scholarships and the total dollar amount that it's costing us? What are we doing about those kids? Are we funding them the next year? Are we making them sit out for 6 months? Or are we doing anything?
The first time that somebody falls below the grade point requirement, they're on probation for a semester. And if it's not brought back up above a 2.0 at the end of the following semester, then they are suspended until they meet those minimum requirements again.
Okay. What about the ones that just drop completely out?
Then they're not funded again until they pay for one semester on their own. And since we fund for a school year, they're kind of out for an entire
So
year.
there is some.
We're also looking at the GPA. I mean, 2.0 is, in this day and time, if you graduate with just a little over 2.0, you do not have a whole lot, and so that's something we're looking at possibly trying to raise up just a little
Well, I
bit.
know several years ago, but the numbers that dropped out, it was like $900,000 paid out. So. I think you answered my question. We can, recourse.
Councilman Ward?
Just a comment, food for thought, nothing that you have to implement now. I know you guys are always thinking, but one of the things that always comes to colleges, whether it's 2-year or 4-year, is that federal dollars that those students get. I know when I went to school, I qualified for federal aid. You had 2 disbursement dates. You got that big chunk right off the bat. That was pretty much gone to tuition, but then I was waiting for that second one, which was only about 2 to 3 weeks later, you know what I mean, or maybe a month later. Well, those students that default or that drop out, you know, the institution has to pay those federal dollars back at a certain percentage, and so it was costing us, you know, $500,000 every year. So what we did, we implemented a system called the Early Alert Retention System, where we do an ear report, what we call it. As the educator, somebody that stops coming to class, or their GPA drops down, or their grade in that class drops down, I do a report. Well, once I put that report and I click submit, it freezes financial aid, okay? So they have to come see the financial aid counselor. They got to come back and see me before I'll take that ear off of there. Okay? We have disbursement dates, so instead of giving our institution, we could probably incorporate what Cherokee Nation does. You know, instead of giving them all that money at once, you know, it's something like that. Just some food for thought. That's decreased our payback by 50% or even better. You know what I mean? Because when somebody quits showing up, then we have shut it down, and they only got 2 disbursement checks instead of getting all of the money. Because you know what would happen? They get that second one, they were gone. Well, you got 3 or 4 strikes before you're out on financial aid. You know, you go on probation, still get money. You know, then you do a semester. So it's just something to think about. I know it gets complicated because you're dealing with multiple schools and different things like that. But you know, that's kind of what we've implemented at Carl Albert. So, thank you.
So the GPA right now, the minimum is 2.0 to qualify for our scholarships. I was talking with a student the other day, and back when I was going to school, you know, they were saying was D's get degrees. And this day and age, D's won't get you a degree. They don't count a D. So with the 2.0 GPA, what kind of grade range does that look like? Is that a D average, or?
The one thing that I saw in some of the applications that I've worked is they had a great first semester. A couple of A's, couple of B's. And this semester didn't do quite as well. I've seen as many as 3 F's and a C or a D and still have right at 2.0. To me, the F's are scary. But, you know, I've got to let them continue because they've still got the 2.0 that I required.
I don't know.
Spring semester, Barenford Creek looks pretty good.
Well, with the increase, gosh, it's just going to get larger and larger. You know, yeah, you prioritize education, and those dollars go to our future in the Cherokee Nation. But you know, we're facing a lot of budget hits ourselves with at the federal level. I don't know. I don't know what it's just it's going to get larger and larger.
She said, you know, she thinks we'll fund in the neighborhood of 4,500. Not putting you on the spot, but we were talking the other day about how many were on probation, and the percentage is small, right? I mean, compared to that. So we're talking very few students that are not taking real advantage of it, but they're there.
Okay.
And in any way we can correct that, we need to.
Any other questions? Seeing none, good report. Appreciate you guys.
We are also, Verna, and she's got a matter with HR. So if you have any questions for early childhood, we will attempt, and if we cannot answer them, we'll get back with you.
Any other questions for Verna? I don't see no, Ron. Tell her good report.
Okay.
All right. Down to Sequoia High School, Superintendent Leroy Qualls.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think I sent in a short report for you about the time school got out, but as usual, I've got some other things here. Not a bunch to report on when summer starts as far as schools, but as far as construction projects this summer, we don't have any, which is good and bad. The good is it means we can move into our dorms the first day of school this year. Our dorm staff's very excited about that. They report back on July the 24th. Some things that I've got here, some activities that the high school has done for this summer. Either classes or camps. We've had driver's ed. We've had service projects on different occasions. SEL freshman camp, we had 90 kids go to Heart of the Hills. Bonding, they spent a couple of days out there, bonding and cultural activities. Alternative ed, we've had some credit recovery on the computer. We've offered and all this is paid for by our grant, not any of it is coming out of our gen fund. We had cultural foods, character ed class, public speaking. ACT Prep was our second biggest class. We had 25 in that. Had a real good show for the summer. Performing arts, we had 10 students go to University of Arkansas to view their program over there. Food handlers. You know, anymore, whoever works in a concession, whomever has to have a food handler's certification. So we had 10 students complete that for the summer. Because we come back in the fall, we've got fast pitch, we got volleyball, we have football, and if anyone works in a concession, they've got to have their food handlers before they're allowed to do so. And that kind of rolls into our senior class trip. They take a good trip, but those kids work 4 years to earn credits and points to be able to attend their class trips. And concessions are a big part of that. So all told, we had 357 students this summer. It was either in summer school class or participating in a camp or certification area. This Thursday, we've got this young man that's signing with Northeastern to play basketball at 1 o'clock, and that means it's special meaning to me because I coached his dad. Yeah, I'm old. But Tyus Daughtery also made the first team all-tournament for the Native American Games last Saturday at the All-State game, and he's signing at 1 o'clock with NSU. And that brings our total to 8 kids that have signed to play at the next level for next year collegiately. And for a 3A school, that's pretty remarkable. And believe you me, I've been in this for a long time. I've been to all class schools, you know, and that's a good number. So we're very excited about the freshmen that we do have coming in. Our committee did a good job. I think there's 94 at this point, freshmen that'll be coming in. And just a very brief overview on our athletic teams this summer. They had an outstanding summer in their summer leagues and their team camps. Got a lot to look forward to next year. And I've got some things here, and this is also grant driven, our immersion school grant program. I'm real tickled with the college visits they've had already, and they still haven't finished their summer yet. But they've gone to Northeastern, Connors, Bacone, Rogers University, and this Wednesday they'll go to University of Arkansas. And this is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And well, if you took Joe Bird and me to a college campus in the 6th grade, there's no telling what would have happened. We didn't get that exposure to high school. But these kids at this young age, we're exposing them to college campuses, and I'd like to see them go to Carl Albert sometime. We're trying to get everything scheduled and get these kids, before you can score, you must have a goal. That was one of my coaching things that I had for many years. Because without a goal, it's kind of like trying to float the river without a paddle. It's kind of hard to go in a good direction. But they've had some real good activities for the summer. Some of those, they picked blackberries. They caught crawdads. I know of a kid that caught 34. I'm pretty proud of it. They picked blackberries. My advice was to watch out for snakes and the chiggers. Those are bad. And the good thing is they made jam from these berries. And the jam, I'm diabetic, so I didn't eat any of it. They say it was really good. And the strawberries, here's some comments that I got. They went down to Stillwell to pick strawberries. Well, these are a lot better than you buy at Walmart. Those seem dried out. Which, you know, for a young kid, that really, for them to notice that, I thought it was pretty cool. They learned to can tomatoes. They had cooking classes, and they still have cooking classes for the summer. And they had a class in pottery and making baskets. So I think that grant program with these kids has given them a lot of good exposure, tremendous exposure, something that I know I didn't have growing up. I did it, but I didn't know it was an education. It was survival for me. You know, here's your bucket. You go pick a bucket of this, and we got to have some dinner. Some of our teachers are going to a STEM conference, our department chairs, and we got a group that's going to literacy design, and we've got some that's going to college and career readiness, which is one of the big things now. And listening to the higher ed report, we've got to get our young people convinced. Not everyone goes to college, but there's career tech. I've had several kids that's been certified in more than one thing before they graduated from high school. And there's something very special about the career tech is that if you go to high school, you go to career tech, there's something called a 13th year. And there's many people that don't know about that. What that means is they can go a year after they've graduated for free. It's tuition free for those kids. So back in your community, that'd be one thing to put out there. If you're in career tech, this is what's offered here for you. And if you're not, and if you're a 9th or 10th grader, not everyone goes to Harvard. So get ready for the rest of your life. Try to get certified in something. And I'm telling you, the health field, there'll never be a shortage there. So that's just one little thing, word of advice that you can convey to the young people that you come in contact with. We know everybody's not going to college, to Harvard or wherever, but there's career tech there for you too. You think about that, you get outside of that box, and it's hit and miss. So I think that's, I don't know, I could get on my little rant, but that's one thing I think it's with our society that we fall a little bit short, because we have people getting in trouble quite a bit, our young people, which is sad.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Qualls? Mr. Qualls? Yes, sir. Councilman Budgeman.
On this career tech, how do they go about applying for that?
They go to their counselor.
School counselor?
Yeah, 9th or 10th grade year. If they're fortunate, they can get in, you know, as a junior.
Yeah.
Up your way, there's one, because I've visited many career techs. I don't know how far you are from Afton, but they make motors, boat motors over there. They fly people in from other states to get certified. And the neat thing about that is that they have a cross section of a motor, which is next year's model, and that's what they're working on.
I've seen some of them. So start with the school counselor.
Start with the school counselor. Here's another thing. Gosh, what is it? Occupational therapy. As an assistant, a new program started last year in Muskogee. They only admitted 36. The lowest paid of those 36 individuals was $32 an hour. That comes out to $72,000 or so. The highest paid out of those 36 kids was $45 an hour. Well, that comes out to over $90,000 a year. That's an assistant. That's not the occupational therapist. So that's a new program. That, I feel like that'll catch on, and 36 is the most that Muskogee can take, allow into that class. But there's opportunities out there for kids to be ready to do something when they graduate from high school. But, you know, and you can call me if I can help in any way.
Any other questions for Mr. Qualls?
You mentioned Zion School. Where, anybody here from Zion?
Where's Zion at?
It's on this side of Miami, Florida, somewhere, south of Stillwell.
I think it's the best school in your class, right?
Just go.
It's a good school. But one thing, getting back to the career tech, grades are important. You know, kids have got to have so many credits before they can put in for career tech.
Yes, yes.
OCCC in Oklahoma City. It's off of 240. OCCC, Oklahoma City Community College, has a fantastic occupational therapy assistant program.
It's awesome.
It's my daughter went there.
Well, that's kind of a
and has
problem.
never had a problem getting a job.
That's good news.
They want to come to Oklahoma City.
That's good news.
And
And thank you for the nice comment on my mother's. Awesome. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Good report, Mr. Qualls.
Thank you.
Kept good work.
Thank you.
Next, under old business, none pending. New business, discussion of the Cherokee Immersion Program. We have the honor to have Dr. Dessa Dawson. She's the president of the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Language, and there's approximately 12,500 members in that committee. She's also the director of world languages for the State Department of Education, and she has a lot of best practices that a lot of the schools, immersion schools in the state of Oklahoma do, and so we brought her here just to kind of give us some ideas on our immersion. And so Dessa Dawson, please come to the front here, and we appreciate you making the long trip from Oklahoma City to come visit with us.
Did you buy her lunch?
Thank you for the invitation, and I'll tell you that I was already here because I'm at the language conference. And
really?
there were about, I think 100, I don't know the complete numbers yet, but there were 100 that registered for the conference, and so I addressed them this morning. So it was an easy thing to come here this afternoon.
That's pretty good.
And what I'd like to do is to share with you a little bit about immersion, because it's not something that most people know very much about. And there are two uses of that word, immersion. There is the use commonly thought of as you immerse someone in a language to learn it. And that can be done in a regular classroom, a regular foreign language classroom, or what we say in Oklahoma is world languages, because world languages include Native American languages, foreign languages, and American Sign Language. And that's been around since 1990 with House Bill 1017. We made that change. We also have been able to, luckily, get the tribal languages, for the most part, have an alternative pathway to certification, and we now have 11 of the tribes who have classes in the public schools in order to earn high school graduation credit for their world language requirement. So we're pleased that we have made some success there. But the other term, immersion, and the one that we're really interested in, immersion programs, is a really different way of thinking about acquiring the language while you're learning your regular coursework very early in age. Though immersion programs are for elementary not for middle school and high school. You can continue an immersion program that starts in elementary in different ways at the middle school, high school level. But immersion programs are at the elementary level. And what you do there is you teach the content that is supposed to be taught at each grade level, but through a second language. And there are very differing programs in immersion as well. There is immersion that is 50-50 or partial immersion, where half the day is in English and half the day is in another language. There are full immersion programs, and the one that you have is a full immersion program, where the majority of the time in the beginning, at least, is in the native language in Cherokee here, and only 10 to 20%, at least in the beginning, is in English. That varies too. Some people go at the end, and when I say end, at the end of the elementary cycle, they go to becoming 50-50 or 60-40, 60% in the target language and 40% in English toward the end. There have also been some modifications made in programs in Oklahoma because of the testing that we have, especially the third grade reading test. That is significant. And I will tell you that we held our very first immersion summit a year ago now and invited all of the immersion programs in Oklahoma, and we do have more than most people knew about, to attend this. And we needed to do that because we didn't have any way of collecting information at the State Department of Education about immersion programs. It's not on the accreditation report. We didn't know where they were. So we had to find out about the programs and what kind of immersion programs they were. Cherokee Nation was there, and we appreciate their attendance at that. And we will hold a second summit during Engage OK in Tulsa at Union Public Schools on July 11th. It's a half-day, 2-hour discussion again, continuing what we learned last year and trying to find ways to help these immersion programs. I can also tell you that we have immersion programs in French, in Spanish, in Chinese, and in Cherokee. Most of the immersion programs are in the Tulsa area. Some of them have been very successful programs. The one at Tulsa Eisenhower started in the early 1990s. It is a full immersion, and it has 2 different programs within the same school. One is a Spanish track, and the other is a French track. And they are amazing in what they have been able to accomplish. We have people come and visit that program all of the time because they want to see how they got to be so successful. They also had to expand the programs because both of them have been very popular in Tulsa, and so they created a second school, Zero, for the Spanish immersion, and there were 2 tracks that they were developing in the French at Tulsa Eisenhower. I want to tell you exactly how successful they are so that you can understand what an immersion program can do. These students in 5th grade attend school in France, if they're in the French program, in Costa Rica and in Spain, if they're in the Spanish program. And when I say attend school, I mean they go to school in a foreign country for anywhere between 5 and 8 weeks, depending on what they have worked out with their partner schools. And their grade for that 5th grade time period is part of the curriculum that these other foreign schools offer. That's amazing that they can walk right into a classroom and understand what is happening completely and do the work in another country. That's how good they are. I always encourage people to visit those 2 schools, those 2 programs in particular, so you can see what it can do for you. We have a Chinese immersion that is 50-50, and that's in Jenks. And they are now developing their pathway into high school, so it has been around for a while. The first students are in high school, and I believe they'll be graduating very soon. We have also some new programs that are called dual language two-way and dual language one-way. These are all very different. The dual language two-way generally have Hispanic students who have heritage Spanish spoken at home that go into classes with English-speaking students, and they both learn each other's language. And then we have one-way dual language where Hispanics are maintaining their own language of Spanish and building literacy skill in Spanish while doing the same thing in English. So they come out being biliterate, meaning that they can operate in both languages equally well. I also want to tell you that the state is looking at proposing a seal of biliteracy, and that seal of biliteracy would say that these students are proficient in English as well as a second language. Those really can be accomplished best through immersion programs. And we have worked with the Oklahoma Foreign Language Teachers Association. Also, we've had some of the tribes send representatives to meetings because we will have to set what would be the expectations. And we're thinking about having 2 different levels for the seal, one at an advanced proficiency and one at an intermediate high level. And for Native American languages, we're going to need help because we've got to determine how to assess a student's ability at different levels to be able to award that seal. But we're looking forward to that happening as well. The reason that we want to do this is because we're becoming more global. There are many companies that need the skills of a second language speaker. And this is, to me, the most important part. We have shown, we have research that now shows that a student who is literate in 2 languages is much more successful than a student in 1 language. In fact, we have found there's evidence now that shows that you can delay Alzheimer's by 5 years if you are literate in 2 languages. If you look at the trajectory of how students do in school, if you can imagine that this is the line for most students. They start out here at this level, and they go up and they finish somewhere here. That's the general pathway. Okay, for a student that has another language other than English, and he's in an English-only program, will be about here. Okay? Someone that it becomes literate in 2 languages not only equals the 1 language English, but surpasses. That's the only way I knew to show you. So I'm sorry I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to be sharing, so I didn't bring that with me. But the research is there. They surpass their monolingual peers, is what I'm trying to say. So immersion programs are good. But you do have to understand what an immersion program needs to be successful. And that's where we can always improve. Number 1, the teachers have to be very proficient in the language that they are conveying the instruction in. And notice I didn't say the language that they're teaching, because this is not where you're just learning the language. This is where you're learning the content through the language. So the teacher has to be very proficient in the language in order to be an immersion teacher. In addition to that, the teacher has to know the ways to convey things in a second language and has to know how to use comprehensible input to do so. What that means is they have a different pedagogy than just a simple language teacher would have to know. They have to learn the skills to teach through the language rather than just teaching the language. Those are things that are needed in an immersion program, and we have critical shortages of people that have those skills. I hope that I have been able to convey some of the things that you might need, and I haven't talked too much educationalese. I understand some of you are educators yourself, so I think you will understand what I'm having to say. But it's very important that these things be taken into consideration if you want to be successful in the program. Now, I told David Walking-Stick I would take questions. So if I don't know the answer, please forgive me, but I'll be glad to find out the answer and get it to you afterwards if I don't know the answer today.
Councilwoman Vasquez?
Yes, thank you. Have you had time or taken the time to visit with our immersion school staff before now?
I have visited one time a few years ago, and then I've had numerous conversations. I will tell you that one of the conversations I had was a difficult one because I had people from the State Department of Education coming to me asking the same type of questions that you may have about, well, why can you not succeed in some programs and you can in others? And I have to explain what the goal of the programs are and what you can do, because you're going to get higher proficiency faster if you have a full immersion than if you have a partial immersion, because you spend more time with the language and some things like that. And many people have big questions about assessments, about what you should have to be doing in an immersion program, and it's not something that is easy for Native American languages, because they don't have the same resources as the commonly taught languages. They don't have book companies that already have translations of content areas in other languages. They have to develop all of their materials themselves. It takes a lot of effort to be prepared for that kind of program. And one other thing that I should mention is, because Cherokee is such a complex language, languages are categorized from 1 to 5, and 5 being the most complicated. Cherokee, they're not even sure what category to put it in, but all the guesses are at a 5. So it's going to take longer to reach the same level of proficiency in Cherokee than it would in Spanish, for example. All of these things you have to know in order to make evaluations and judgments about a program's success.
Have you evaluated any of our immersion statistics, like from our school? Have you?
No, I haven't been asked to do that.
Yes, Councilman Buzzard?
You said there were 11 other tribes that have approved language programs in schools.
Not immersion programs, but
But they
for
have-
graduation credit.
Okay. Are those all in Oklahoma now?
Yes.
What are some of those tribes? I don't need all 11, but
Choctaw, I hope I won't forget some, but Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee has not an alternative pathway, but NSU program to certify teachers. Kiowa, let me think what else. Sauk from the Sac and Fox Nation. Sauk is the language. Seminole. I'm not sure I'll remember all of them, but several of the tribes. Some of them, it would be very, very difficult for us to certify because there are no speakers left at all. And so they can't offer the program for high school graduation credit. They can offer it for elective credit.
for an elected, okay.
Right.
That's interesting. So you were saying, can you kind of go over the two-way the dual language, one way, go over that again, because I'm trying to figure out, which Holly would know our statistics on our kids that go home to fluent speakers and versus ones that go home to non-speakers. And what, I guess, research which curriculum would better fit our model here at Cherokee Nation for immersion to get the best bang for the buck, per se. Can you kind of go over that again? On those?
The program that will give you the highest levels of proficiency are full immersion. Okay, which means more time spent teaching through the language. And the 50-50 tends to catch up, but it takes longer time to do so. And they have to devote more time at the higher levels to the language at that point. Sometimes you'll hear people say dual language for any immersion program as well. I tend to use that in a different way. To me, dual language means that you have students studying from two different communities studying two different languages. That's how I think of it. But it's confusing in this world because we have states like Utah and Delaware that call their programs dual language, but they are, to me, 50-50 programs with a one-way population, not a two-way, if that makes sense. So you'll hear different things, and that's why sometimes it can be confusing to talk about immersion. They're fairly new programs in the United States. Utah has over 100 programs in their state, but it was a state initiative, and state funding went with it, and they have 5 different languages that they are putting into immersion programs. Delaware has a smaller amount because they're a smaller state.
So, if we have a lot of kids that go home to parents that are non-speakers, so you would think the dual language is more beneficial for that group, or?
I would say that because it's a complex language and because you have both circumstances, the full immersion is the very best program to get the highest level of proficiency, if that's the goal. Okay? And there are ways to mitigate the fact that some of the students would go home to parents or grandparents that speak the language and others do not have that advantage. There are ways to mitigate that, but it takes extra time and thinking about what to do. And help from the parents.
Would you be available to meet with maybe Chuck Hoskins and maybe Ron Etheridge and Holly, and maybe have a round table to maybe discuss what we're doing? I like to be involved, and anyone else can as well, and to see how we can, I guess, better serve or be an exemplary immersion, not only in Oklahoma, but maybe across the United States.
I would be glad to. That's my job, actually, to do that. I can tell you, for example, when the third grade reading test became so important in Oklahoma, and it became part of the accountability for the schools, the Eisenhower program did make some changes in their program and what they offered in English Win to, again, mitigate that change in what they were expected to do. I also know that there are other programs in other states that have not made an exception for, but allowed a longer period of time to reach a certain proficiency in English for immersion students. We don't have that here, but immersion programs are fairly new in our state. The Cherokee Nation was able to take advantage of the charter school law that said that you could have charter schools if they were immersion outside of Tulsa and Oklahoma City. So you got to start a little bit earlier than some of the others that are trying to think about that now. So there are a lot of complicated issues with this.
Well, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Dyson, Dawson? Saying no. We appreciate your time coming and visiting with the Education Committee, and we'll try to get in contact with Ron and some of our admin here at Cherokee Nation, and we like to hear some best practices and ways to improve our program. And Holly, we're short on time. We would like to hear about your program. Maybe next month at the Education Committee, we'll schedule you so you come in and visit with us, tell us about what you're doing, okay? So,
and could I make one recommendation for the Education Committee?
Yes.
This is based on what I heard Leroy Quall saying today when he was talking about getting students ready for college earlier. The State Department of Education right now has an initiative. This is not my particular piece, but I did attend the meeting about individual plans for students at a much earlier age and getting them involved in that. I think he mentioned that as well. And then the other thing was the career techs and apprenticeships, mentorships. Those things are also in another initiative that the State Department of Education is doing. And I would love for you to be part of that group that talks about that particular piece, because you seem to be very interested in it. And I just wanted to let you know that that's available.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Dawson.
Thank you.
All right, down to announcements. Seeing none, next meeting's June the 10th. That's not right. It's July 10th. Sorry. July 10th, and at 3 p.m. So do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion. Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. All right.